Welcome to Fresh Takes on Tech, where we explore innovation and technology shaping the fresh produce industry. Hosted by Vonnie Estes, Vice President of Innovation at the International Fresh Produce Association. This podcast brings you the brightest minds and boldest ideas, transforming the future of fresh. In this episode, we sit down with three leaders transforming how produce is grown, inspected, and financed. David Kat of Neolithics explains how advanced hyperspectral imaging is unlocking deeper insights into fruit quality and reducing waste. Pat McCullough from ProducePay shares how technology-driven financing is creating more stability in fresh produce supply chains. And Steve Mantle of Innovating discusses how geospatial data is helping growers optimize resources and improve sustainability at scale. Enjoy the show.
Hi, I'm Vonnie Estes, the Vice President of Innovation of the International Fresh Produce Association, and we're here in Atlanta live at the show, the Global Produce and Floral Show, and we're doing Short Takes on Tech podcasts where I get to talk to great people with great technologies and great companies. I will just turn it over to you to introduce yourself and the company.
Hi, Vonnie. My name is David Kat. I flew over from Amsterdam because this fresh produce show is just amazing to be at. And it's a great way of seeing a lot of customers, seeing the state of the industry, and changing the state of the industry.
Exactly. So tell us about your company and what you're working on.
So at Neolithics, we help the produce industry understand their fruit and their vegetables. So we're actually able to see inside the fruit, inside the vegetable. So we can actually see the organic compounds, meaning that you can see the aspects that make up the taste, the quality. We can see internal defects. So we are preventing food waste, which is extremely costly to the entire industry. And in the end, the consumer is paying for it. But it's also a sustainability issue because 11% of all greenhouse gas emissions are caused by food that is lost and not consumed.
So in layman's terms, how does the technology work?
Yeah, so in layman's terms, a lot of you came flying in, so you've seen what the scanner looks like for your bags. So we have something that size or larger, where you can put in a crate of avocados or blueberries on the line, and we will be able to see inside the fruit. So we go like half an inch inside the fruit. We're using hyperspectral light, which is light in a frequency that you cannot see. But as you know, there's more than meets the eye, and hyperspectral light actually enters into a fruit, into a vegetable. It excites the molecules in those fruit and vegetables, and we are able to actually understand those frequencies that we're seeing, and we're able to tell you the acidity of a blueberry, the dry matter of a mango, internal defects in an avocado, or for example, internal browning, or the oil content of an avocado, which in relationship to the dry matter is a very good indicator of taste. So we're actually able to read the mind of your fruit and vegetables, making it tastier, more better quality, and actually inserting data into the food system, which is desperately needed because we need to feed a growing global population, and we're not going to do that with the arable land that we have at our disposal.
So do you have to program it or give it data and specs for every single type of crop or fruit that you look at?
Yeah, so we have mature models. So actually what we do is we take an avocado, we slice it open, we use the existing gold standard, and then and that same avocado is scanned. So we're actually able to correlate what a defect a QC would see, and we feed the artificial intelligence model with machine learning. So increasingly, so if we have tested one variety of a blueberry, the next variety will only require a couple hundred fruit. And those models are just extremely robust, and we can build models typically with 100, 200 fruits, and then we're able to tell you the bricks of this variety of grapes or this variety of potatoes even.
So how many different types do you have models for now?
So at the moment we have around 20. and different varieties within those 20. The most mature are in avocado, and we last week at Fruit Attraction in Madrid, we actually, Westphalia, which is one of the biggest avocado producers in the world, they announced a global partnership with us, where they are using us in QC initially, but eventually actually on the line. We have mature models. Yeah, that's really exciting because it's a very important step in datafying the food system and in getting better quality food out. And a big player like this is really instrumental in getting the food industry to embrace technology in this way. We have mature models for blueberries. We're going to be announcing some exciting things pretty much on the same level soon as well. Tomatoes, but the way we build our system is that we can actually create models pretty rapidly. We had a customer in Valencia in Spain that does figs, and in fresh figs there's a dormant mycotoxin which is completely harmless. The moment you dry it, it may become lethal. It's forbidden. So, and we're actually able to, we build a model in a couple of days, 36 hours, on fresh figs. And now we're actually able to detect in fresh figs a mycotoxin that's dormant. So so these technologies are here, and the food sector has to start using them, has to really start getting their head around what the new abilities that AI and new technologies like hyperspectral imaging actually brings the industry.
And so, are you commercial throughout the EU, or where?
We're on 4 continents. Okay. So we're a small company. We're just 22 staff, but we're in Chile, we're in California, we're in various locations in Europe, and we're in Israel with Granot, one of our shareholders, which is a very big avocado cooperative. They do 75,000 tons. They have a packing house with 75,000 tons, and they actually sort on the line with our technologies. So we tell them about for each individual avocado, the dry matter, external defects. We're getting onto internal defects for that as well, and they can sort them. Whether these avocados can even be triggered, whether they can be mature, because you don't want to spend all this blood, sweat, and tears, money, and effort on an avocado that's then actually going to end up in landfill or in oil anyway. Right. So 4 continents, and I'm here in Atlanta to actually shake some hands on new customers, because really we can bring tremendous ROI in the light of the massive amounts of dollar amounts and CO2 amounts companies are losing by sampling food. Samples that everyone knows are not very statistically representative, and that sampling is no longer necessary. You can go to full inspections and get better food out, better quality, better sustainability, and better green dollars as well.
So the company was in our Freshfield Catalyst Accelerator program. Can you give me some thoughts of what you learned from the program and how it's been a benefit?
It was the best.
Well, that was what I was fishing for, but.
No, so the Catalyst Accelerator is just tremendous, because it's a pressure cooker. It's amazing to see all the other companies and really be inspired in ways that you can't imagine before. We did a colleague of mine who's our plant scientist. She did a tour early on, I think.
Immersion week, yeah.
The immersion week, which is really cool because we are a multidiscipline team. So we have plant scientists, data scientists, optics, so AI. It's a huge combination. So it's great to actually be able to expose all those disciplines of the team also to the industry.
She asked a lot of really hard questions. It was great to have her.
Yeah, all the questions I wouldn't be able to answer either. And then we had all these sessions online, some of which I joined from the Amsterdam Vondelpark on a bench, because it was my late afternoon. Very inspiring, some of them very useful. Some of them just nice to know. But all in all, it was just great getting the atmosphere of the group and the excitement, the energy. And then I participated in the demo day, which was a great way of actually connecting with our mentor team at a leading global retailer, which was very nice. Got to see quite a few prospects that I'm still in touch with, and some of them were actually engaging in like in-depth conversations. And then you toured us down Central Valley, which is a site I will not forget. And because I arrived a day early from Amsterdam, I also went whale watching in Monterey. So, and that was great prep, because if they belch, they smell like broccoli. So that was.
You're getting ready. That's great. So you said that you're consummating some deals here at the show, but what do you hope to get out of the show and being here?
Funny thing is, I walked onto the floor this morning just to set up our booth, and I saw one person, and then we started chatting, and that could actually be a tremendous relationship.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was really wild. It's an organization that is feeding, or that has varieties that growers actually produce. And we had this half-an-hour conversation about how data in the food value chain should be an exchange from the fields all the way to the retailer and beyond. And actually, I'm having a conversation that you set up tomorrow with your supply chain director.
Oh, great.
Because IFPA is involved in the supply chain of the future, and he agreed, and we're very excited that data is really one of the elements that make the supply chain of the future a success, and actually a synergy where the collaboration between all the different parts of the value chain can actually enhance each other and make everyone produce better foods and get bigger rewards in terms of dollar amount and volumes.
Great. Well, that sounds like a good first day. We'll continue to make it better. Well, thank you for being here and your enthusiasm and being part of the accelerator, and I hope you have a really good show.
Thanks for the amazing opportunity to be here. And so the Catalyst is really a great jumping board into this global world of food production and food producers, and thanks for that.
Great.
And thanks for this conversation.
Hello, I'm Vonnie Estes, the Vice President of Innovation of the International Fresh Produce Association, and we're here in Atlanta at the Global Produce and Floral Show, and we're doing podcasts, short takes on tech podcasts, 10-minute conversations with amazing people and amazing companies. So I'm going to turn it over to you to introduce yourself and your company, and we'll take it from there.
Thank you very much. So I am Pat McCullough. I'm CEO of a company called ProducePay, and we are in the business of providing capital and technology to the produce vertical.
Break that down for me.
Sure.
So what would someone buy from you? What do the products look like?
Yeah, we started really with being a working capital solution for farms. We started with Mexico. We've grown now to 25 nations, supporting both the US and European end markets, aspirations to go fully global soon as well. But we can advance capital pre-input costs. We can advance capital in the middle of a season. We can advance capital on more of a factoring basis after shipment. But furthermore, we've actually put agronomists in the field that work for us, and that allows the measurement of the quality continuum for the benefit of retail buyers. They like to take a look at this stuff. We're also showing shipping and order management continuum. That's all done through tech, but it does start with people that we have in the field to, really protect our investment in those crops and, help a buyer at a big grocery retailer know, hey, your harvest is coming next week. It looks good. If you want us to pick it a little bit early because you're happy with the spec adherence, we can make markets and unlock demand that way.
Wow. So who's the customer? Is it retailers?
Yeah, that's the question. Who is the customer? We see the customer as the full vertical. So we are partnering with marketers in the middle. Okay, they really have the PO, the 30-year relationships with buyers. They're the ones that are going to physically handle things that we wouldn't do as more of a pure tech company. But we clearly offer a tremendous amount of value to the farm. We try to bring predictable volumes, specifications, and pricing even to the farm, which generally they cannot get in a fairly live spot market. Retail's getting visibility into things and traceability back to the row in the lot. So if there's a problem, we've got that tagged. So unlike, a salmonella breakout on spinach where everything's in a terminal warehouse getting repacked and you lose traceability and you have to shut down a third of the nation's spinach supply, we don't have to do that on the stuff we're tracking. And of course, the marketers in the middle, we're offering a ton of value because with our capital, we can lock up supply and inventory for them so they can deliver 52-week supply solutions to retail.
And what were you, so is anybody else doing this, and how did the company get started to even see that there was a need for this?
We don't see banks doing this. We do see distributors doing this, and there's some actually wonderful people who are very good at this, and I'll use an example of Robinson Fresh. They're smart. They know what they're doing with working capital. We feel like we do too. But there's very few people that have the ability to underwrite this and protect themselves. And we see a lot of distributors, who I won't name, who put their money in without security, without stability, without the contracts and the ability to recover it, and they find themselves in harm's way. So there are a few of us that can do this fairly well. We're trying to partner with the like-minded people that are trying to efficiently plan and predict what volume, quality, and pricing will be. Let's plan that on a forward basis, maybe even a multi-year basis. That's what we aspire to. Then we'll be able to deliver lower cost capital solutions through big banks, which don't play in this space yet. And we refer to that as creating bankability for the produce sector. What that really means is cheaper and more abundant capital for the world's farms.
Very interesting. So what, in looking at this, seems like there's a lot of problems that it's solving, and one of them is food waste, definitely, because you don't get stuff hung up in the chain, and people know when they need to move it. So how do you, when you're talking to potential clients or customers, how do you talk to them about what benefits they're going to get around and including the financial part of it? Yeah,
thank you for this question. This is really important to us. Our primary mission is to address the perishable produce food waste problem. Today, we've seen studies as high as 40% of what's invested in and harvested gets wasted before it's consumed or processed. Worse than that, if you look at the arbitrage and the speculators that are trying to corner markets and make some money on flipping produce, there's probably another 20%, so 60% economic waste, 40% of that is physical. And when we have agronomists in the field that are showing the quality continuum through the cloud directly into our marketing partner, and they decide whether to take it to their retail customer, you are essentially bringing the retail specification adherence to the farm. So we see distribution center reject rates falling from 8% for Mexican table grapes into places like Walmart and Costco, all the way down to 0.5%. We still allow the farm to take risks if it's right on the edge. We don't tell the farm what to do or not, but we do warn them. That's going to be considered tier 2 fruit. Expect that to get rejected, and then you're going to have a big problem on your hands. We can normally talk a farm into doing something smart with the less than grade A caliber fruit.
And how do is there any problem in getting access? I mean, I can imagine if I were a grower and I had something that I knew was going to be questionable off spec, I wouldn't want you traipsing around.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So how does that happen?
Yeah, you're 100% right. Well, here's the differentiator we have is they need our money, right? And we're almost the only source of that early large capital. We put a lot more to farms earlier than most of the buyers do, the distributors or importers. So it's you want our money, it's our terms. So you're going to need to give us access to your full financial records, your full commercial records, your quality. We need to see the food safety reports. We have to make sure our capital is safe. So because we're technically lending them money, we do have rights to things that the average commercial partner probably wouldn't.
Fascinating. I did a panel this morning on AI in the Education Festival, and it was packed, and partly just because people are like we have a huge, as you can imagine, so much variability among people that are starting to use AI and people that don't want to use AI and people are like, I'm scared to death of it. So how do you think AI is going to change your business and then also change the business of your customers?
It's a massive opportunity in produce. We view this space bluntly, okay, and this is a generalization, but we view the entire space as analog and push supply. And what I mean by that is you don't have interconnected real-time supply and demand. Like, just start there. Just start about matching and making markets. That information will happen in pockets. It'll be online, it'll be offline, but it's not connected and there's no decision making to match those efficiently. So that's a big, big problem. The other thing is it's a possession game. The farm has possession of the fruit. If they can make a market that's higher than the one they've already pre-agreed to, not in a contract, right? There's no binding contracts in our industry, ridiculously. They will ship around and go to someone else. So you've got this dilemma called, how do you pre-plan this thing? How do you create binding agreements between retail, marketer, and farm? And then how do you live to those? I've talked to really important marketers in the middle, 80, 90-year-old companies who said that concept is impossible in produce. Okay, I look at another perishable commodity called electricity. Electricity perishes immediately. We cannot store that at scale, economically yet.
Yeah.
But we have 5-year futures markets, and we have big companies and governments trading 5 years forward on a volume and on a price basis. And it's every bit as perishable, and it's quite volatile, not quite as volatile as our commodities, but it can be done, and everything else in the grocery store is done this way. So to suggest that produce is different and unique and it has to stay this way, we just don't agree with. But we recognize that there are incredible impediments in this industry to make that change. So we're not suggesting we can wave a magic wand and get this done in a season or with a customer. But what we are trying to do to attack this is say, okay, today we have price volatility of over 100% in produce. It's not from the demand side. Demand's fairly flat. We eat about the same amount of salad on Monday as Thursday, in January as July. It's the supply side. So where are there structural supply deficits? And if we put money there and take that to the right marketer and to the right retail partner and say, sign up for this bit. Won't ask you to sign up for 52 weeks, but this bit that you need the most, will give you a fair price. Average last 3 years. We'll put the money in to do it. We just need you to do your job a little bit earlier. Give us that price commitment, give us that volume commitment. And we think we can do it around their biggest need moments, which is that surety of supply challenge that's structural in many cases. Think table grapes in May, think melons in January. There's these holes in supply that we're trying to put our capital to those spots first and set up that predictable program where everybody benefits. Then we hope to expand that broadly throughout the full season and then get to multi-year. And then we'll be able to do what the solar and the wind guys have done, which is bring infinite capital at the lowest rates in the world because there's investment grade offtake. So think about Walmart's balance sheet, AA. Think about Costco, single A. We don't attach to those in the produce industry. That's why there's no financing capital for farms. It's very difficult. We can solve that if we just build these programs and these contractual connections. But we're in our own way. Like, the industry doesn't think that's possible, and many people don't trust that if they took that price commitment position as a marketer to a farm, that retail would actually be there when the spot market moved down. They think retail will renege on them. So we got to connect the beginning to the end. And we think we'll be able to do it in these moments where surety supply is the hardest. That's the strategy, anyways.
So is that the biggest challenge then, is just really trust and communicating that this actually is going to work?
Yeah,
and
for good reason. You know, for decades, marketers have burned farmers have burned marketers.
Yeah.
Marketers don't have a lot of leverage with this big consolidated retail buying power. You know, the retail employees are motivated to wake up in the morning and get the best price they can. You know, the incentive system and the history here is real. You can't get away from it. So what you really have to do is work higher up in these companies, think about this strategically and say, let's start small. Let's do a pilot. Let's do one program for the thing you need the most. Let's cure that problem for you. And then let's talk expansion. So, you know, Rome wasn't built in a day type of adage, but I really do feel the trust issues that happen within our industry are real. They're not, people behaving badly. This
Yeah.
is, real financial outcomes that they've been hurt by in the past and they haven't forgotten. So, we empathize with that, but we still feel like we can build a better way of doing business if we get a little more professional, a little more organized, get those, legally binding contracts in place where people can't, pull the ripcord out of a promise and, hurt a company financially.
This is so fascinating. I mean, I work more with technology like on the farm with, different kinds of biological solutions with the soil and that sort of thing. And but to really see what the opportunity is to bring Fintech into the industry and to really turn the industry around and have us operate in a way that it's win, 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 win. It's like everybody wins here. There's no loser.
Yeah, and I'll give you a scary picture. So the World Economic Forum last year, we sent our founder, he participated in Davos, and one of their mega themes was by 2050 with population growth, we're gonna have a food supply issue. Those studies assume that today's farms exist in 2050. They're dying right now. Many in California are actually being developed into, concrete jungles.
Yeah.
So we're losing our farmland. So then you start to think about, okay, wait a minute now, who am I competing with for land? The energy guys who have 30-year financing with investment grade offtake, we can't compete with that. And habitation, and we can't compete with the financing and the rock solid, investors behind that. So we have to get our stuff together so that we're a viable investment for the big finance, Wall Street, to put it bluntly, and then we can compete for land and we won't create a bigger problem for our own food supply for the next generation than we already are creating. So this is where it gets pretty serious, right?
Yeah.
It's not just, hey, we're trying to make money here, we're trying to be smarter. No, we're trying to actually protect the world's food supply. And we see it like Abu Dhabi, a company called ABQ bought Unifruti, right? Mm-hmm. So that's a government balance sheet. That's not a sovereign fund. They're buying food security for their constituents. Remember COVID, right? Nations were paying in advance for vaccine capacity. We're gonna be doing that with food soon. And we have to get in front of that. We gotta create the supply side, and we certainly can't waste the precious supply that we already have.
I have so many more questions, but we're already way over. So let me just ask you one last question. So what do you hope to get out of it? How long have you been coming to the show, and what do you hope to get out of being here this year?
Yeah, ProducePay has been coming to this for years. We're trying to suggest a different way of doing business.
Uh-huh.
So if we're not in the middle of influencing and persuading and begging, and whatever it takes, we're missing an opportunity. So it's very rare. There's only a few events like this a year where you can actually get the whole industry in one place. And of course, we're busy running around hour after hour, but it's super helpful because we had meetings last week in Madrid, and we have follow-ups with the same people and the broader teams here. So we're advancing the business much more efficiently this way.
Excellent. Well, thank you. I look forward to following your progress, and so needed in the industry. So thanks for the work you do, and thanks for being here. And thanks for all of our listeners to catching up with us. So
Thanks for having us.
Sure. I'm going to turn it over to Steve to tell us about your company and what you're doing.
Well, hey, Vonnie, it is so great to be here. This is my first time to spend. I've heard about it for years, but walking through forests of fresh produce and berries and flowers, it just blows me away. So great to be here. Innovating is a ag data science company. We're based out of Washington State, and we are focused on bringing together geospatial data insights for growers to help them improve their quality in terms of their outcomes by optimizing their inputs. And that ranges from soil health to labor, water, and so on, and helping them differentiate on their quality outcomes.
Excellent. So where are you in that stage? You have live customers? Are you selling, or are you developing?
We do, yeah. So we really have kind of two different categories of where we focus. One is actually focusing with grower groups on innovation. And so one of those is USHBC, the U.S. Hybrid Blueberry Council.
With USHBC, we do the Berry Smart Fields program to help showcase new technologies that are coming in out in the field. Really cool stuff. Big focus on harvest automation there. Another one we do in apples is the Smart Orchard program with WSU, Washington State University, and Washington Tree Fruit Research Commission. Same thing, rolling out new technologies, showcasing them, so on. Swipe that aside. Commercially, what we do is we've rolled out in berries with Norris Farms down in Oregon, for instance, which is tied in with Super Fresh on mapping out, providing them with equipment, training, supporting them on basically mapping the entirety of their farm from bud to blossom to greenberry to blueberry, and helping them understand new insights along the way. We do that with Fall Creek Nursery as well. Some of you, your viewers, know and love Fall Creek. I'm certainly in that camp, where we help them with hundreds of different varieties on digital phenotyping on what's happening out in their fields using this tech. We work with McCain Foods on the potato side, digitizing some of their sustainable farms of the future out in Washington and Idaho, particularly around soil health and soil mapping. And so those are some of the examples of growers that we're working with commercially, and really looking to ramp that up even further as we go into 2025. With that said, this Fresh Catalyst Accelerator that we're part of as part of IFPA has really opened our eyes. It's been amazing for us. I've gone from our little corner of the world in Washington where apples is the big thing, of course, right? That's the #1 crop. But going down as part of this Fresh Catalyst tours that we've done with these 11 other folk in this cohort, it's been amazing going out to Taylor Farms and out to Grimway and out to Duda and Sunworld. My mind's been blown in terms of the opportunities and the needs when it comes to helping optimize some of the inputs and really doing that at massive scale.
So what surprised you, and what did you learn by going to those farms that was different than what you were doing before, and how will that affect your product and your product development?
Yeah, well, I mean, one is just the scale. I mean, apples in the Northwest are at scale, and so are blueberries. It's the #1 states, Washington, I think, and Oregon, around blueberry production in the U.S. But, I mean, I think what's the number with Taylor? Is it 80% of the nation's apples or something? Not lettuce, sorry. Yeah. Right? And seeing at Grimway just the carrots coming, I mean, mind blown. So it's thinking about refactoring our solutions and offerings so that they can be more portable and more scalable, and then ultimately leading into everything we do is really around how's that data going to flow. And so pushing further on the conversations with these leading organizations, their chief technology officers, their chief data officers, if they don't have one, hey, why don't you have one? Where's your path to a data lake? And tying that in with what we're doing in Microsoft Azure to flow data in and out around geospatial data is key. And then I'll say the last thing is, on the US HBC side, we're having some great conversations around driving a data summit with that industry and working with some of their top growers, packers, sales organizations around, hey, how do we better flow data amongst the industry so that we can better work with all the environmental change that we're dealing with and the ebbs and flows so that we can better match production to demand.
So when you look at that, and I look at this at a lot of these types of solutions in the supply chain, like who's your customer then? Who will pay for the product? How do you get revenue?
Yeah, so for us, it largely is larger growers. We also see the investors increasingly that are, Goldman Sachs is an example of one that we've worked with that are buying and are working behind the scenes on some of these farms and are looking at more of this much bigger picture piece on data flow. Huh. So I would say it's typically your medium to large growers, if you will, and their associated ecosystem, packers and marketing side of things, largely.
And then what does your sales cycle look like? I mean, you said do you go in through technology? Do you go through the CEO? Or like, how do you... I imagine the sales cycle is a little long, and it's hard to get people on board to adopt some of these things. What does that look like?
It's so true. Look, I think for us, it's coming in at multiple levels. So I spent a career of 12 years at Microsoft and very much used to working with the C-suite. But my view is always is that we have to be grounded in the realities of what will work in the field. And if you've got data-centric solutions that aren't really tied to ground truths and don't have the confidence of the front line and the managers along with the ownership, then you're not going to be able to execute consistently. And so I struggle with this. It's really boots on the ground, working with the growers that are on the front line, your managers, field managers, and then working with ownership. And then the key is really working with associations, right? And groupings of growers. So whether that's with Driscoll's and this IFPA program, been a mentorship piece that came together where Matt Hoffman with Driscoll's has signed up to be one of our mentors. Love that. And that's been huge in terms of facilitating conversations with your larger entities that now represent lots of growers and sales desks and so on as well. So, but I think in terms of it's start small. Let's start with one piece of the project while having the strategic conversation around how does this ladder up. So what are your key challenges now around soil health, for instance? Where are your key pain points that you're struggling with? Focus on that first while having the C-suite discussions as to, and how do we help with that longer term goal around unlocking more data insights holistically across your organization and your collaborator organization.
And then how do you, as again, from a revenue point of view, I can see that you would end up being consultants,
right?
Like you're just constantly working with people, training people, giving them new features and benefits.
Right.
So what is the revenue model? Are they paying you some sort of monthly retainer or like, how does that work?
So in some cases, we have folk that are putting us, like some of the larger investment funds will put us on retainer and say, hey, can you validate some of these technologies and efficacy of the technology? Because really, we've leaned in hard on technology partnerships that we view and have validated our ground truth kind of gold standard. So one of those, for instance, is Green Atlas. And so it's a mapping technology that can map orchards, vineyards, et cetera, in terms of how many pieces of fruit and the size and the color are on each plant and earlier stage buds and blossoms. And we charge on that on a per acre basis, right? Another one is soil optics. So that's the same thing. It's on a per acre, per year basis. And then another one that we're working really closely with that we are just announcing is called Second Sight Bioscience. And that's actually around digital scales. So it's about actually taking scales, putting them out in the field and ensuring, again, that the core theme here is data. How do we unlock a consistent data stream from the field to help change those inputs and then end up with a better outcome in terms of quality, right? And so Second Sight Bio makes these digital scales that are connected, and employees or contractors basically badge in. You can now look at what their productivity is in real time. We can flow that in through to payroll. We can benchmark where you compare against other, the broader ecosystem, depersonalized and anonymized, but say the blueberry industry. Like, what does your labor productivity look like in terms of tons per acre and tons per hour of labor? And that's, we charge for that based on, it's literally on a parts and equipment type of thing. But it's largely on a per acre, or in some cases going on a retainer basis.
And then these company partners that you work with, what's the contractual relationship with them, and how do you find them? How do you choose what partners you want to work with? Because it's an endorsement. I mean, you're kind of their marketing arm, right? So
it's true. So frankly, we work with a company for a couple of years, typically before we have our coming out party, and saying, okay, we endorse this and we feel confident with this, and we're going to do joint marketing together on it. And so then we end up with a business partnership where typically we're getting a small cut of basically reselling and distributing their product.
Very cool model. Well, I could keep going, but we need to start wrapping up. So what do you hope to get out of the show?
Well, I mean, one of the things we were talking about beforehand, I love seeing that you've got some students and young faces that are here that are learning, and, shout out to the student base that's out there. We need you to come to this event, lean in more and share what your insights are, and professors that are out there, get your students out here. And I think part of it for us, it's just, we've had Mission Produce was one that reached out to us. I mean, different companies that we wouldn't have ended up talking to otherwise. So really large producers here. So making some of those connections, having good, deep discussions for follow-up, and learning about the floral industry, for instance, right? And where there are needs there and pieces that I hadn't even really thought that closely about, but realizing how big of an industry it truly is. It's amazing.
Great. Well, thanks for being in the program, and it's great talking to you, and have a great show.
Thank you, Vonnie. Good stuff. So glad to be here.
Thanks for tuning in to Fresh Takes on Tech. See you next time.